Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson,
Better read than dead,
and Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
And today we have two very special guest hosts, Brittany.
Hey.
And Taylor.
Hi.
They are hosts of the, how do you pronounce this? I'll screw it up because
Sissers.
No, Brittany, you had to try it first.
Oh, sorry.
The Sissers podcast. Thank you for saving me, Brittany. I appreciate that because I
Anytime,
slaughter.
JJ.
The guys can attest. I slaughter names and pronunciations all the time, so I appreciate the save there. But yeah, welcome. We appreciate it. Bringing an interesting take on the movie we're going to talk about, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, let's talk about our sponsor because we're sponsored and shit. Yeah, cheers to the new year from our friends at Manscaped. Because your resolutions shouldn't be the only things that are well kept. 2024 is the time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Hey, I don't write the shit, but I like it. Right here, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're looking to maintain a trim or go for the clean shaven look, Strimmer's got you covered. Just by over 10 million men worldwide, now's your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code THEVERDICT, all one word, for 20% off plus free shipping. Happy New Year or happy new balls.
I don't even know what to say to this one.
Oh,
Little different than our sisters conversation. Just throwing it out there.
This is pretty tame, actually, for the What's Up Verdict
No, I'm just laughing.
yeah.
When I first heard Mattson recording this one, I think I threw a diaper at him.
You did, and it was great. And this one's like, this one's not. We got past the South Pole. That was
no more South Pole references.
Yeah.
I may
Why
have.
was there South Pole references?
Oh,
What does that
geez.
even mean?
Oh, geez.
Just
I
think
may
about
have.
it.
I may or
Just-
may
just
not have
think
used
about
this
it.
with you, Tay. Come on.
It's keeping your South Pole clean. Come on.
Way to shake those, JJ. That's great.
It's the greatest euphemism I've ever used. Look, I like their stuff too. I don't know if I told you guys. Mattson may already know this because he was editing some of my shorts, but I actually
He was
enjoyed.
editing your actual shorts or your shorts for this
Oh, some
podcast?
things he recorded.
I will let
I was
you
like, what is my
decide.
husband doing in his free time?
He got one of these too, so I'll let you decide.
No.
Yeah, so I
What
enjoyed
is he
this so
doing to
much
you?
that I went and bought the beard hedge trimmer. Now I haven't used it yet, but it's on the list to do this weekend because I'm getting a little mountain manish, but it's cold outside. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jay, you're looking a little scraggly compared to what I'm used to.
I think you meant to say sexy, Mattson.
That's
Have
right.
you seen that full beard?
He thinks short, so.
Edits my shorts. What do you want? No. Feel like Bart Simpson or something. Like I eat my shorts. Anyway, we're starting a new month. So welcome. And that new month is the AFI Top 100. God, that's a mouthful. Look, it's really badass movies, and there's 100 of them, and we picked a few that we liked, and then Charles voted on it. So go, if you want to be part of voting, go join our Patreon. You can vote too, and decide what we watch. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's great. This week, we're watching and reviewing Psycho. It was released September 8th, 1960. It was written by Joseph Stefano and Robert Bloch, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It stars Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Martin Balsam, John McIntyre, Simon Oakland, and Patricia Hitchcock as the voice of Carolyn. Yeah, let's talk about this movie. Oh, wait, we need a synopsis, which this one's really weird. Anyway, a Phoenix secretary embezzles $40,000 from her employee's client, goes on the run and checks into a remote motel run by a young man under the domination of his mother. I mean, it's accurate, but it just doesn't really work. So, anyway,
I think we should start with our guest host. So, to introduce my wife is Taylor, and we were watching this, and Brittany was over, and then like halfway through, they well, not even halfway, like immediately, they were just talking about all like the, well, I don't. I mean, you guys could. I didn't like at times. I felt like I wasn't even watching the movie because they were talking so much, but they were extremely interested in what this movie had to say. So I think we should give the floor to our Sissers co-host to why this movie was so fascinating to them initially.
Okay, well, first off, we're true crime podcast listeners.
Shout out to
True
Crime Junkie.
Crime Junkie is fabulous. And
Yes.
what's the saying? You say it all the time.
Oh, so what was it? Their old like tagline: "Stay weird, stay safe, stay alive."
Yeah. So
She should have listened. She
She
should have
should've
listened.
listened. Like, who goes in the middle of freaking nowhere? Like, obviously, this guy's crazy, and he's very interested in you. What's up, Alec?
But Alec, you're not gonna go like stay out there and like
You're gonna die.
All you gotta do is not lie to Norman, and you're fine.
No, but Norman would have come after you anyways if you were a young, sexy woman. That's all. I think that's pretty much what it was because his mom said.
I am Norman's type, okay?
You're
Obviously.
No.
Obviously.
He's Mrs. Bates's type, and that keeps you safe.
I mean, there's a bunch of unexplored things. But yeah, Brittany and I were going back and forth because Brittany and I immediately were like, well, that shows. We do a podcast for mental health because I'm a therapist. Brittany is my sidekick on everything. So we talk about everyday mental health. Yeah, we are Lucy Nuttall. And this one like totally epitomizes like all of these themes that you see. But it was interesting because we were going back and forth talking about how it was very revolutionary for them to talk about these mental health disorders that were pretty intense for the time being. Like they were touching on extreme mental health disorders that weren't talked about really at all in the general population, and then putting them within a movie, which Hitchcock is known. Brittany loves Hitchcock, so I've seen these since I was a little kid. This was one I actually hadn't seen though yet. But like it's iconic for him to break a lot of the social norms, but for him to talk about mental health specifically was interesting, especially for what they understood about mental health then. Because I was going through and like diagnosing this guy the whole time and being like, that's this part, and they meshed like 3 or 4 different mental health issues into one issue. And it was interesting to see how they were textbook on some things and then how they were spread out through others.
So obviously they talk about the personality. I don't want to call it the wrong thing because we have different names. Is it DID now?
So he looks like he's a split between things. So if you guys, can we like do spoilers in this? I don't remember.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
it came out in 1960.
This is 1960.
That's a
not
you
everybody.
problem.
I appreciate you asking, but yes, 1960 movie, we're good.
Well, at the same time, like not everyone's got educated in the 1960s. Ask Mattson. It took him a long time to watch those old shows with me.
Why are you helping Alec right now?
Because I'm married to you.
I love
You
this so
roasty
much.
babies.
I love that.
So the interesting thing was like they showed how this lady goes into this very isolated area, and there was this guy that was very charismatic. It was almost like Ted Bundy style charisma, right? Like he was very
it was like
warm,
total
very
serial killer. Like
he
fit all those serial killer like profiles to a T. Like
because of why? Brittany and I were going
because he was like friendly, he was charming, he was like just keep going, Tay. There's so many other things. I don't want to stop you. Yeah, his stuffed birds were total like.
But this is fascinating because he totally picked a passive animal, so you could see where he had a representation for the birds themselves. The birds were which Hitchcock had a weird thing for birds too, so maybe he needs to be psychoanalyzed. But
animal mutilation, right, and like harming animals is a sign of serial killers. Like that
because it's a part of antisocial personality disorder. So checkbox there, isolation, ability to be charismatic.
A super close relationship with your mom. Like that's a total Freudian thing. But it also goes to serial killer. Like there usually is some interesting relationship with women, which is why they go and kill mothers.
Guys, Freud is a freak. So back in the 1920s, Freud ran a lot of these concepts. So he was the one that most people knew, which was psychoanalysis. Guys, I'm getting so excited. But he was the one that ran all of these things. And so his concept was Oedipus Rex syndrome, which if you don't know that story, it's a Greek mythology story. JJ, you want to take it? You were like excited.
Well, no, I just know the story. I feel smart.
Go ahead.
So I just, look, I'm going to explain it much worse than you. I'm going to say Oedipus had a thing for his mom.
Yeah. So Oedipus ended up marrying his mother, and he didn't know it was his mother until the whole story comes out to an end, right? And there's this whole thing with this oracle that was blind and everything else. But the main concept is he had a thing for his mother and he was sexually attracted to her. So Freud has this concept where everybody is attracted to their opposite parent. So like a daughter had penis envy and was attracted to her father and only wanted to like please her father. And
South
the son
Pole
had
envy.
oh my goodness. Yeah, South Pole
Manscaped.
envy. Shout out. And then the boys had this weird attraction to their mother. And it was really like he was a very a lot of his theories are very sexually oriented. Like babies had oral fixation kind of thing. Like all of the stages of development were explained like through a sexual lens. But specifically, boys had a thing with their moms. And then you could see that dynamic where this man grew up never pleasing his mom. So he grew up with significant trauma. His dad died when he was 5. Clearly there was no father figure. His mom was clearly verbally abusive. And then she goes and kills her lover. Is what the
but
story
did she
is,
kill
right?
the lover?
No,
Yeah.
because it comes out.
That's yeah. I'm just saying, like,
So,
pretty
you
sure
see-
that wasn't the mom. Like,
Yeah,
because
so
he was
this-
jealous enough, with the Oedipus complex to. Yeah.
So story starts off really slow, where it's like Oedipus complex. Then he builds into this whole thing of, like there's 2 different personalities, and then he's attacking people and he's killing people, and it comes out he actually killed the mom and her lover because he was jealous of their relationship and he wanted to be with his mother, which is a Freudian idea in there, right? So you can see as we're going through, there's antisocial personality disorder with presence of mutilation of animals as a youth, taxidermy now, heavy interest in kind of like the death side of life and like the alone. He self-isolates, he has charisma and he can connect to people really well, but he doesn't have empathy or connection emotionally. So that's the part where people say like psychopath. So it's kind of 2 separate things, right? Like there is antisocial personality disorder that we now diagnose, and then psychopathology. Psychopaths tend to like lack empathy. He shows spots of it, but then he has a connection to his mom, which is a Freudian idea. So he doesn't always fully qualify as a psychopath nowadays, is how we would like classify him. And then you get the last bit of the dissociative identity disorder, where his brain has a fissure. It's like Moon Knight that we talked about last season, where he shifts into another personality, and his personality he takes on is his mom, which usually when you have dissociative identity disorder, you don't do your abuser, you do a protector personality mixed with so you have one that's going to guard, like in Moon Knight, where he had an innocent personality, and then he had one that like guards his personality. And in this, he became the aggressor. So that's more like people in the past have said it's like schizophrenia and other things like that, but it doesn't really classify nowadays for schizophrenia. He didn't really have hallucinations. He just almost shifted into a parallel mindset that looks similar to DID, but isn't fully that. So it's interesting because he did really complex mental health disorders that don't fully translate. A lot of it was trauma-based that you just don't, like, it didn't hit quite right, but it's interesting that he chose to do those ones.
Well, it's little known. So a lot of people think Psycho, the movie title Psycho, and they're like, oh, it's because he's a killer. And the actual truth is there was interviews done with Hitchcock where he talked about, no, it's because the diagnosis, there was psychological, there was mental disorder there. And he talked about it briefly, that I wasn't trying to say he's psycho because he's a killer. He's a killer because he's a psycho. And that's the part, like I named it, but most people, and I'm the same way. Like when I was a kid, I didn't know. I was like psycho because he's a killer, and you get the psycho killer. Like all that stuff is just trained in your brain where you're like, oh, psycho because he kills. But it's really the opposite of that. And that's what Hitchcock was trying to say. And that's why he was way ahead of his time in general.
Well, like these theories weren't even published yet. And that's what's cool to me, knowing like the history of the psych world and of the medical profession, is we hadn't connected within the medical profession itself that trauma equals all these behaviors, equals serial killers, equals everything else yet. We got that in the 90s. Like, so for him to understand that was iconic for not only his field, but for our field, which is cool.
Yeah.
JJ, like going back to what you said, like, I don't know how many crime podcasts you've listened to, but Tay and I are huge Crime Junkie fans. But so if you go into like the suspect profiling, like you had mentioned, right? Like Psycho was named Psycho because of the psychopathic tendencies. Like if we were looking for the suspect, like how would we profile him? What would he be? We would say we are looking for a 20 to 30 something year old male who's charismatic, charming, has family relationships, most likely lives in an isolated environment. Like there are things that you could like pinpoint. that would then be like, okay, this guy's totally a psychopath, therefore that's why he's our suspect. But like, Tay, what else would you add to that like suspect list? But it basically like just checks off all of those psychopath profiling would be what we're looking for, would also be your suspect profile. So if for anybody
You're
else who's
looking
a
at
crime
like the
fan,
family system, like you would literally spread it out. Where what was his childhood development, and they give us. It's crazy because I keep thinking back in the 60s, people didn't even ask these questions in intake, but like that's what Hitchcock gave us. He gave us a background of him. He gave us an understanding of like how he developed that way, why he developed that way, and then why he was executing the behaviors he did. And even the psychiatrist was able to say that in the movie. And the psychiatrist then probably wouldn't have gone to that. He would have been like your subconscious thoughts, because it was more Freudian and behaviors and than it was looking at all the other things. So it was cool that Hitchcock set it up that way and said that stuff, because that's not how the medical field was then.
Yeah.
it just makes me love him more. I'm just going to throw that out there. So
Sure. Wow. And he's done, he did it in a couple, I don't know. It sounds like you're Brittany, a junkie of Hitchcock like me. And I know Alec is as well, but Vertigo does a lot of that
my
too.
favorite. Mattson still hasn't seen Vertigo, so I haven't. We're gonna watch it. Like, it's my favorite.
Why am I not surprised you haven't seen Vertigo?
Right? I will. Yeah. And I was like, dude,
why am I not surprised?
Mattson doesn't watch anything past the 90s. He says it's too old.
I know.
Yeah.
You're on mute, dude.
You're on mute, and this is
He also leaves things on mute too. It's fun.
I do this often at work as well. I watch things past the 90s. I love Indiana Jones, and we're watching Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Jones is a classic.
If you hadn't seen Indiana Jones, we wouldn't even be talking right now.
Look, Alec, you've got two more
probably would've
fans.
married
When I met Tay, she's like, "Have you seen Seven Brothers and Seven Wives?"
Seven
Like,
Brides
no.
and Seven Brothers. What's
Seven
wrong
Brothers.
with you?
Exactly. Terrible movie.
No, it's not. It's a classic. JJ just gave you a bad evil eye.
Wow. All I'm saying is Alec has two more advocates on his side to bully me right now.
I was just say it's
Alec,
4
we
against
got
1
you.
now. Like,
We got you.
I've been waiting so long.
But I should say, listening audience, yes, did I really enjoy this movie? It was awesome. Phenomenal movie. Highly impressed from start to finish. And yeah, was it in black and white? And we know how I feel about that. I was prepared for it, but I think well acted and a good twist and just overall intriguing. I really liked it.
What's your problem with black
It's because
and
it's Hitchcock. Like, honestly, if you hated it, we would have had beef. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's true.
Gingy,
Let's
we're
trade
working on
Mattson
this.
for Brittany. Can we do that?
Hey, I have told Mattson this. I was in a very exclusive film club at one point in my life.
Nice.
And it was me and my best friend. And that was it.
Hey, that sounds like me. I started a very exclusive podcast about movies with my best friend. So it's,
Yeah.
I get it.
So I like really come with those prerequisites, Matt, and we would watch stuff like Hitchcock or this. Yeah, it was really fun.
Hitchcock is definitely well, and there's a reason he's got, I think it's like 4 movies on the AFI Top 100. Like, the guy doesn't mess around. So when it came to this month, like I knew when we went into this month, I picked some more modern, and by that I mean not black and white or by Hitchcock, but I knew Alec was going to go straight for a handful of certain movies because he has an affinity for the old
I have a
movies, but he does.
I have the same type, Alec. We're good. Like, I totally respect that.
In terms of some movie trivia, in terms of black and white, one of the fun facts of this movie, why did Hitchcock film this movie in black and white? There was 2 reasons.
I'm going to cheat. I'm not going to cheat because I have a really good friend named Charles that tells me shit like this. So
I think it was because of the mental state of things. Like, he was trying to show I'm trying to verbalize how to say it, but it's probably simpler than what I'm thinking, so I'll just be quiet.
Was it just from like a cinematography perspective, like just trying to make it feel more like dark and eerie and like add more of the edge, or was it more complicated? Knowing Hitchcock, it was more complicated.
Much simpler than that, to be honest.
Much simpler.
All right, Jay, give us the answer.
It's because of money. That's
so Rear Window had a huge budget then compared.
Well,
so it did have James Stewart and Grace Kelly, so like.
Well, and it was done in Technicolor, wasn't it?
I mean, if you have Grace Kelly in anything, then you're gonna like be able to,
Well, and you would want to pay for that, yeah.
But Mattson still thinks she's pretty, and she's dead, so
Yeah. No, it was to save money. It actually cut the film cost by 75%. That's the one reason that I know.
Okay, which one is his most famous one, though? Is Psycho one of his top famous movies?
Yeah.
Probably Psycho and the Birds, don't you think, Alec?
Oh, the Birds is terrible. I freaking hate the Birds.
The other reason to JJ's answer is also because he was worried about it being too gory for the audience as well.
Oh, yeah. Because what was it that was like so historical about that?
It was like the angle of the knife.
There was bright red blood that flew when he was cutting up Marion, and
was
so
that like the like, yeah,
it was unheard of in Hollywood at the time. So like you just didn't, and he was afraid audience couldn't handle it.
All right, and on that note, this is my second trivia question about that very scene. How many days did it take to film that particular scene?
Knowing Hitchcock, 23.
Yeah.
23. Do we have any other takers?
I'd say 7.
JJ's right on the head. 7. And there were 77 different angles that were taken for that particular scene, albeit the actual scene was 45 seconds. So when you really think about that, like an intense amount of work for such a finite moment in time.
Yeah.
Does anybody
so
know if
iconic
Hitchcock
and
had,
like paired with the sound? Like,
okay, does anybody know if Hitchcock had a mental disorder?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Well, do you know what his disorder was?
I don't know if he was diagnosed.
Guys, I'm Googling this.
I was like, I'll Google it right now, but yeah.
The last trivia question that I wanted to go through, it's also, I don't know if it's in this scene, but in the bathroom, this was the first time this particular object was ever filmed on screen. What was it? Toilet. Alec is correct.
I had no idea.
And now we know.
Have you ever seen Pleasantville?
I have, but it's not my favorite movie.
You gotta go watch it.
I'll have to. I just don't think I've ever paid attention. Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Pleasantville is annoying.
The sound and last fun fact in terms of the sound of the knife stabbing was a knife being stabbed into a melon, if we wanted to know. So there you go.
Ugh. Makes sense, though, you know.
Yeah, it's the right sound. The wet
sound guys are awesome.
Sound guys are awesome. I would love to do that job. I think so. Thinking about Hitchcock and this film in particular, because to me it's the most recognizable for what he does. Meaning, when I was a kid, the first time I watched this film, I think I was like 11 years old, and a friend of mine's like, "Let's watch it. You got to watch it." I'm like, "I hate black and white movies." It's like, dude, and I was uncomfortable the whole freaking movie, and I didn't even know what the hell was going on. I was 11 years old, or whatever age I was, and even now, like I know exactly what's happening, but like the use of sound, the fact that you don't see a lot, like it's not like we have like today's gore, and I've bitched about this on horror pot like reviews that we've done, where I'm like, once you see the monster, it's too much. Like it's done. I lose interest for a little bit in most cases. In this one, like it's fast enough, it's creepy enough scenario. It's a place that you normally feel safe regardless of where you're at. And all of those things combined with the sound and the music culminate to this just eerie, uncomfortable thing. Like he's known for quote unquote horror films, but most of his films aren't scary. They're just uncomfortable and intense. And I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact that he puts you in these situations where you're like, I've been there. I've done that. I can relate to that. And then he puts this weird music to it and the sound. And you're like, I don't want to keep watching this. Like it's making my skin crawl. So I just think he's brilliant across the board. And I think in this one of the reasons this one's most popular is because it makes people uncomfortable, really uncomfortable.
And his character profiling, like, is just amazing for how he adds with all of those other assets. Like, it's just,
Well, I feel like
it's unrivaled.
He's really good at understanding emotions and understanding how to use those emotions to whatever he wants to use them, which is almost like a psychopath. Like he's manipulative. He's kind of like Hitchcock himself. If you watch all his movies, is good at this, and that's what like makes you go back to his movies and why they're timeless, but also kind of creepy. Like. Because he can make you feel whatever he wants you to feel.
It's true. Didn't
Huge
hurt.
Dick.
He always got
Huge dick, but oh my gosh, do I love Alfred?
Guys, I googled this. Do you want to hear what popped up for him?
Yeah,
it's creepy.
I'm ready.
Of course it is. Like, I mean, of course it is.
According to Spotto, including so he has misogyny, sadistic tendencies, fantasies of rape, bathroom and other fetishes about sex and the body. overwhelming guilt, anxiety, and a mother fixation, phobias towards women, people in general, and the world at large. So he's kind of like Norman.
I mean, but women do die in the majority of
all of
movies.
them. But it's like maybe he had a mommy
I was gonna
issue.
say all, but I was like, is it all of them?
No,
Pretty
because
close.
nobody died in. Oh no, one. Yep, nope. Rear Window. Yeah,
Rear Window, it was a
darn
woman.
close.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like pretty much every movie. I was like going through my brain real fast.
Did a man ever die?
Excuse
Yeah.
me, the private eye.
Yeah, the private
Yeah,
detective.
I was like, this is
Okay, I
psycho.
couldn't remember. That's what
Yeah.
You get her, Alec.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, and not to mention, like, and to Alec's
Arbogast.
point, he was an asshole. Like, it's
Oh, he's
it's
dick.
like people when they filmed with him, like
he sounds like a psychopath.
they didn't like him at all. Like they hated.
Well,
working
was he
with
like
him.
a narcissist? Was he just
No,
like
no,
what
he
was his
sounds like he's a
diagnosis as a
psychopath.
psychopath?
He can
Yeah, he
manipulate emotions. He has no emotion, no empathy, and no regards towards other people.
Plus a
So
huge
past
ego.
narcissism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Past narcissism, it's to the point of like a psycho.
Yeah. And then,
Like,
there's just, like the rumors, if you read, is like he's rude. He puts people in uncomfortable situations. Like the actress that was, I can't remember her name now that I should, but that was stabbed in the shower. Like
Janet.
she begged him. Like there's a story where she's like, can we take a break? And he's like, no, we have to keep going for 7 days. Like she was stabbed in a shower, wet, cold, half naked. And like, he's like, I don't give a shit. It's about the art. And I don't care what you feel right now. So, and it was like,
it was a woman.
well, yeah. And back then there wasn't the safety laws, the employee laws, things like that kept them safe. It was just, we need to make these films. And the Birds, I think, was the worst that I've ever read about. Like he was an absolute dickhole on the Birds, to the actors, to everybody. So while he makes genius films, he wasn't a good person. So,
Which might be why he made genius films.
I mean, sure, most of these guys you hear about and ladies that make genius shit, you're like, they've had 1 or 2 meltdowns on set. So,
well, and it goes that way with any artist, I think, throughout time too.
Sure.
Like if we were to think back to like Frida Kahlo her life was like wreaked full of havoc. I mean, all of these like genius artists, it comes with a price. So
yeah.
You know, it's interesting, guys, because I'm
What's that?
still researching him and he's creepy. But a lot of mental health people have researched his films and have shown a direct correlation between his films and a stigmatization for mental health disorders. So a lot of our stigmas that come from social media, people only know these disorders and think that they're like these big things and think if you go to like a therapist or need mental health issues, like a psychiatrist, you are that level. And it's like, those are extreme cases that most of us will never see in our career. But because big things like Hitchcock would put him in movies, it set the tone for the field.
MJ, you had said that like those would not be comorbid diagnoses, right? Like you
No,
wouldn't have
to
all
find
of these
this mix
diagnoses
is
that he
like-
has.
Like for us layman people like me, comorbid diagnosis, I mean, I'm going to break that one down because we might have some.
That means diagnosed together. So usually when you have like mental health disorders, there's usually some that will pair together. So like depression, anxiety, 80 to 90% of people have those two diagnosed together.
Yeah,
ADHD,
or like ADHD,
OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, or anxiety are higher diagnosed together. So we look at like what is the likelihood that those two are going to be diagnosed at the same time. And that there's quite a few. But to have like these significant brain fissures, trauma, and then be like a psychopath on top of all these things, like, I mean, like maybe Ted Bundy or like, baby, who's the one that we watched the show on that ate people?
Oh,
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
People like that, because we couldn't
Ugh.
study him. Maybe they were like this Norman Bates, but like,
But these
I
are like
mean,
one in a gazillion right? For statistically.
it's so out there. Like, we don't usually see that.
But Tay, you brought up a good point though, because when these movies came out, there wasn't social media to look things up. You had to go to a library, read an encyclopedia. So when this was on film and this was like the film, you walk away from there, you're like, oh, I guess that's what it's like to be crazy. And then you're like, oh, I know there's a person in my neighborhood named Alec, and he's kind of crazy. He's probably like that too.
That's all I've learned so far is that I'm really close to being a psychopath. based on the
But the
diagnosis.
diagnoses too, like if you look at our so we have a diagnostic statistic manual that is released, right? We're on our 5th one, going on our 6th one. And it changes each time, meaning that the medical leaders are saying like, hey, there's something that we didn't understand. Research has shown us something new, right? So the understanding back in the 60s when they didn't even know these things existed, because all these things came out more as 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. We've made a ton of progress in the last 20 years. 2000 to 2024 or 23 is huge. And that's where it's like, for them to go into such, they created a stigma where if you had any mental health disorder, if you needed any therapy, if you need any help, you're clearly the guy from Psycho. You're Norman Bates. You're not Alec in a bowl outfit and doing whatever.
And then JJ, what year did this come out?
I'm completely normal.
This
No.
1960.
You know what? Your
was
own
when this was
version.
released. Yeah,
Okay, so like
1960.
for another pop culture reference though, that would have like played into people's stigma at the time, right? For like mental health and disorders. To Kill a Mockingbird came out at that same time.
No,
So
and
I
then
don't
they
know if
did
any
One
of you
Flew
read
Over the
that.
Cuckoo's Nest in the 70s. And then in the 80s, we had serial killers come
Well, we
out.
have so many. But like
but-
To Kill a Mockingbird came out in 1960. So like in those years, we had Boo Radley and we had Psycho. Like, of course, people are going to end up with all these like stereotypes, right? Like, this is what crazy looks like. Have you met Boo? Have you met what's his bucket from Psycho? Who I'm drawing a bank right now, Warren.
Norman
Like,
Bates.
yeah, I was like Norman Bates. I was thinking Bates, and I couldn't remember. But like, they are very like this
I
is
got
what
excited.
it looks like.
But then think about from PTSD, 1945, World War II. That was huge, right? And then you had Vietnam and all these guys coming back in the 70s. Like, you're having progression of people showing symptoms similar.
Well, that's
to
One
Norman
Flew Over
Bates.
the Cuckoo's
Similar
Nest
to
was
One
after
Flew Over the
that.
Cuckoo's Nest. But
Mhm.
I'm saying, like, there's a progression social media-wise and stigma-wise that Hitchcock kept inserting all of these major themes, showing people what they look like, and people were showing similarities. So people like Alec would be like, yes, you are crazy. You should probably be in the nut house and not come near me. And you're a psycho. Like, no,
Alec, you are not Norman Bates.
No, you're not.
All I heard was
I
I
actually
need
don't
to
know.
go get a motel
I actually don't know. I need to interview you more before I
In the
trust
middle
you.
of nowhere.
and get a butcher knife, and I am good.
If anybody ever drives by the Burgess Hotel, just keep driving.
I got to turn the sign on.
Oh, did you guys ever watch Vacancy? Oh my gosh, that one freaked me out so bad.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Because it was like so plausible, you know, kind of like this was like hotel in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Yeah, you just never
yeah.
know.
With the creepy
Yeah.
bowl.
I don't like hotels anyway. My parents were, when I hear the story all the time, when my parents were on some trip, I don't remember what it was, but someone broke into their hotel room like while they were in it in the middle of the night and like stole all their bags, like told them they not to leave the bed because they'd kill it. Like, it was crazy. So I'm the guy that when I'm in a hotel room, like I've got all those online contraptions that lock my door even more. Like, I check them like 4 times because like I'm paranoid about hotels because of that. And
Mattson
so
might
watching
be
this
one of
film
those.
doesn't help. So
JJ, I'm gonna need all the links to your items.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
send it to you.
Yeah, send
Well, and
me all
JJ
those.
Tay suggested a book after we watched Psycho the other day. Because Tay, you had never seen Psycho, right? Until this.
Mm-mm.
Oh my!
I knew
God.
about it, but I had never actually
She knew
seen
about
it.
it. Yeah. That was
I've
not
watched all
we
the other
weren't-
Hitchcock
yeah.
ones. I just haven't gotten to that one yet. Don't judge
Um,
me, Alec. I've watched all the other ones. The birds scarred me for life. Now I see flocks of birds, and I'm about ready to cry.
That's
But-
what Alec
because-
does. He judges.
I do.
Tay had us read this book afterwards, though, and I just finished it
Diagnosis.
today. But like, you shouldn't have come here, and it's like another one that's like an Airbnb out
you
in the middle of
finish it?
nowhere. Yeah, I finished it. We'll talk about it later. But
I'm waiting for you to
Like,
finish this
but-
book.
it was one of those where Alfred Hitchcock and the like premise of Psycho has remained socially relevant because at the beginning of this book, I was like, oh my gosh, Tay, like it's totally just the Psycho storyline. Like, no wonder you thought of this. And then it pivots. It doesn't end up staying Psycho storyline, but just as like I'm teaching a Shakespeare class right now to middle school kids, and we just keep talking about like how Shakespeare's still relevant and like all these type of things. And so now just to be like, how is Alfred Hitchcock still relevant? How is he like still affecting like pop culture and all of these things at this point? And it was just so fun to be like, okay, one of these like bestsellers right now literally has a Psycho premise, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Still relevant. Alfred Hitchcock still rocks, even though he was a duty sack.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, you said another one we were watching this. The Disturbing movie with Shia LaBeouf is basically like the. Well,
Yeah.
actually, no. It's the next movie we're going to review is on Rear View, so
No, that was that was Rear Window. Yeah,
Rear Window is
Disturbia was Rear Window.
Guys,
but,
I hate Disturbia, but it was a good movie. Matt, so we should probably watch it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the next one, but I will say it's fun. We're talking about historical figures that have had an influence on cinema, and I couldn't just help thinking, Alec, about Charlie Chaplin and Black and White, and just wanted to hate all over that. But I know he was foundational.
Yep. Hollywood wouldn't be Hollywood without Charlie.
Alec is seething on the inside, and he just wants to stab me.
My hotel in motel. That's all I'm doing.
Mattson's invited to the grand
opening.
I
was just saying, Mattson, you're gonna get sick during that grand opening.
Am I gonna get 20% off with the verdict in my Manscaped shirt? Yeah,
absolutely. You can edit my shorts while we're there.
Yeah.
So creepy.
So let's rate this thing. Wow, we got 5 ratings. Okay, Brittany, Taylor, I don't know if you're familiar. We rate on a 0 to 5 scale. 0 being absolute booty cheeks, and a 5 meaning not good. That could be misinterpreted. Sorry. 0 meaning it's not good. It's terrible. Worst thing you ever
reminded
seen.
me of Pootie from Mythic Quest when you said that. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. And then 5 being a perfect film. So we don't rate on the halves. Your whole numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it.
Oh, we got rid of the halves. What?
Yeah, what happened to
halvesies?
How
Do that, Jay?
Have we always gone?
We've always.
Yeah, you do halvesies all the time.
Do like 3.7.
Yeah, we'll do. I remember halves. You're right.
About? You've done 4.5s yourself, Jay.
I know, and I hate it. I've always wanted to be on the whole numbers, but you bastards convinced me.
New year, new us.
No. It was. I remember now. It was really tough being on the whole numbers because we did try it, I think, and it didn't go well. So it was 4. Somebody was given 4.25s. Was that?
That was Javier.
That was Mattson.
That was like Javier time, and we let that go.
I was like, no, this shit's got to stop. It gets too over. It's might as well just do 1 through 10 at that point. So there it is. Yeah. Alec, this is yours, buddy. You're first. Get this shit over.
My movie. All right. So I love Psycho. I've seen it countless times. I hate horror films, but I love anything that Alfred Hitchcock touched. Psycho. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock. His timing is impeccable. The way he paces movies, so good. This is an easy. I don't need halvesies for this. 100% 5. I will be watching this again multiple times. It's one of my favorite movies, so I'm glad we got it on the pod.
Nice. I'm just gonna go clockwise. So Taylor, you're up next.
I vote a 4.5 because I think he was progressive for his time. I think it was well executed. Being the therapist that I am, knowing what I know now, that's why I'm docking it a 0.5. But other than that, it's a great movie. You should watch it.
Nice.
Wow.
All right, Brittany.
I'm gonna go with Alec on this one. I'm giving it a 5. Alfred Hitchcock has been one of those like defining directors for me. Like him, the Coen brothers. I've got a type of director I like. I know what I like, and he has helped create kind of like my artistic vision for what I expect. So 5 out of 5. I love Hitchcock, so it's sold. Mm-hmm.
Nice. It's a high scoring one. I'm also giving it a 5. And mine's a little different. I just think because he was so groundbreaking. Like, I'm a horror fan. I'm a thriller fan. I like psychological thrillers. I like movies that make me uncomfortable and tense. And so, much to Alec's chagrin, I love these types of films. And we wouldn't have the films that we have, in my opinion, without Hitchcock and without Psycho and without Vertigo and without these movies that made us uncomfortable in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And still to this day, 2023, I watch it, seen it 100 times, and I still go, this guy's creepy. And it just makes me uncomfortable. So they stand the test of time for me. So 5. There it is. All right, Mattson. You're up,
I'm
buddy.
curious. What do you all think I would give? Well, I should say my true co-hosts, Alec and JJ. What do you think I'm going to give this movie?
3.
I'm going to say 4.
4.5.
Wow.
What is my negative 0.5 on this?
How long it was?
No.
That it was black and white, or Taylor and I talked
is
too much.
Correct. Because if this movie was in color and it had been foundational with the gore and everything, 5 out of 5. Got to dock it for the color. Otherwise, phenomenal movie.
Okay, but you also have to recognize that it should have a 5. For me, I took it down because of the therapy side, which is valid. But I think for yours, you need to go back and reassess, babe, because this is iconic for its time, and you can't base it off 2023. You have to base it off 1960. Go back and look at this.
Look, I've never been alive in that.
Black and white for a reason. So pull your head out of your bummy and think about this.
Yeah, I don't know what 1960 was like, and thank goodness
I can't wait till we get Schindler's List on the podcast, and Mattson has a docket 0.5 for being black and white.
I don't want to watch Schindler's List. Can we not watch that one?
I wrote a whole like essay, whatever thing in college for that. It was like 30 pages comparing that. I mean,
guys, like every movie you watch, I have to watch.
No, you don't watch
I almost
every one
picked
of them,
it. I almost picked it for the AFI list, but I was like, that's 3 hours. I'll never get back again for like the 20,000th time. So it's like, I'll pass. So I picked short movies.
Yeah. That one consumed a lot of time for me in college, but black and white, sometimes you just have to go with it, Mattson.
Agreed. So here's, and I'll laugh. Here's the problem is, for once in like ever, I'm on Mattson's side on this one a little bit. It doesn't detract from me for the film. However, now that I know, thanks, Charles, you dick, Guy Pearce's South Pole, because you've ruined it for me. Because now that I know, that's his Patreon name, by the way. Now that I know that it was because of money, I'm like, you prick, you could have done it in color and we would have had blood. However, there is like a little floaty when she's in the shower getting stabbed, and I'm like, I bet that would have looked not good in color. So black and white, I'm like, that looks like skin.
Like the gore and everything else, like it wouldn't have been as good to us because they couldn't imitate what we know now. So it's almost it stayed relevant because it wasn't black and white and not in color.
Look,
so
when I watched this and then I saw Rear Window that we will review.
Yeah, but there was no gore in that one.
Yeah, but the color, I was like blown away. It's like my eyes have been opened. So I'm sticking with it, and I'm happy.
But wasn't that iconic because you still remembered Psycho and it still stood out to you? I don't agree with this score for you.
Okay, I have another argument though, Mattson. I have another argument.
Sleep on the couch.
Okay, WandaVision. Did you?
Did we all just hear this statement? He told me I need to sleep on the couch. You go sleep outside.
That's a bold threat, sir.
That was dumb.
I need to hear Brittany's argument.
I am your baby mama. Don't forget this.
Goodness.
Latina Spice does not die. You go sleep outside, you turd.
Brittany, what were you gonna? Brittany, what's your argument?
Okay, did you guys discuss WandaVision in the past?
We didn't.
That
was pre-TV.
Okay, I mean, not that I'm a WandaVision fan, but I think there are times where it can be like used, like, so if we were to like say WandaVision, right? Remember they go from the black and white and it like reflects the time period, it shows all these things, and then it goes to color to like change the different scene and tone and all this. Like, I think if we take it for what it is and we say, if we were like, okay, Hitchcock accepted, I'll take the budget cut, I'll put it in black and white, and I'm going to make this epic and it's going to kick butt. Like, I think that's where we have to go and be like, in WandaVision, it was an intentional move. They did the black and white, shifts to color. And then in this one, like, Hitchcock did not do anything that was never not intentional. Like, just because it was a budget cut, that did not stop him. Like, he still was an iconic genius for a reason. And he's like, I see you. I'll take that budget cut. I will save money. I will make a bank on this movie. And it will be still relevant how many years later, right?
Look,
like
you all can have your Crayola box of 2 colors, black and white. I'm gonna take my 64 and be happy.
Dude, you can outside with me. I'm wearing tie-dye. I have a color thing on the back wall. Like, you know, my life is a rainbow.
Brittany, let this be known. Brittany loves color. She's basically a clown half the week.
Like, I am not, like, if I were to give you a tour of just this room alone, this is our art room, music room. It is like a crayon box threw up in here. So I am not one that takes black and white lightly. I'm just throwing it out there.
I like black and white sometimes because I'm very visually overstimulated easily. Like, I see things that I'm probably not supposed
James is
to.
Like, oh, shinies.
I do. Like, it's like, and so for me, sometimes black and white makes me enjoy a movie or a photo more because there's less for me to be distracted by, and I can pay attention to the actual subject of the film. Or so. I can argue both sides. Yeah.
I mean, maybe
it was intentional. You felt that character more because your senses were deprived in a certain area, right? Mm-hmm. So that psychopath was able to develop more in your mind because there was not that mental stimulation, like giving you all these different things. His sound was intentional. He removed that color aspect and he was able to freak the crap out of you because of these other aspects. Like your body and your brain were able to focus on those things and really feel the psychopath and the chills that gives you. As Crime Junkie always says, the full body chills. You felt that because of this. Like, I'm just going with that. Mattson, you're wrong. That's
just change your score now. We've bullied you enough.
It's
just not the first time he's heard it.
My hair wouldn't translate on black and white, and like
maybe that's a good thing, babe.
You would look like everybody else, Mattson.
You're married to me, so deal with it.
Yeah, in spite of that.
Love this game. Yeah, so there it is. This has been amazing. First of all, Brittany, Taylor, thank you guys for hopping on the podcast and talking shop. I think
thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a much more educational episode than we would have talked. We'd have just
Taylor,
talked about people dying and screaming and shit. So
tell our listeners how they can find you if they're looking for. I mean, you don't really say what you all do, so.
So I'm a mental health therapist. I work in Washington. I'm licensed in the state of Washington. And I work in specialty of trauma, and then I do teen anxiety and depression with them. So kind of all over the board. I have another therapist that specializes in eating disorders and everything else. So clinic up here. And we do our own podcast talking about mental health and everyday life. Brittany incorporates kind of like she's my person. You can tell we get along really well. So we just talk about day-to-day stuff and how it can incorporate into your life. So we have noticed, at least I even do this in sessions with clients where we'll watch scenes from TV shows or other things like that. So they can start to see how mental health is like in everything and how it's portrayed. Because sometimes we don't see it in ourselves, but we can see it outside of ourselves. So I love doing this kind of stuff. I love analyzing it. And we were just ranting when we were watching it. Mattson's like, you should just be on here with us because we had a lot of insight. But clearly my husband's sleeping outside tonight after this. So fine.
So if you wanna listen to them more, search Sissers. So that's Sissers on Spotify, Apple, wherever you want to get your fancy YouTube. They're there and get your daily dose of mental health.
Yep. You can follow us on Uhane Counseling, UHANE Counseling on Instagram.
Nice.
And we're not too boring. Our tone's pretty much the same as what you got here. So
we just don't have Mattson to roast, but we do roast him without him there.
We still roast him without him.
They'll make fun of me.
Yeah.
Charles, their podcast is made for you. They just roast me more, so go for it.
You too. You should be my friend.
We get it. He took a break, and we still roasted him like he was here. So, I mean,
it was just easier because he wasn't here to defend himself.
It's so much easier when he's not there to fight back. It's great.
It's just a
we love you,
pastime
Mattson.
around here. Absolutely. It's my gaming buddy. So
some
don't
days.
suck. Yeah. When he doesn't tell you to sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
So with that, before we get out of here, also go check these guys out on the Sissers podcast, but also go get Manscaped. Go 20% off free shipping with the code TheVerdict at manscaped.com because nothing says Happy New Year like a deal that leaves your balls and your budget feeling refreshed. Embrace a new you and definitely embrace a new trimmer courtesy of Manscaped. So go check them out. We appreciate them sponsoring us over the last few episodes. Hope to continue that if we can. But yeah, there it is. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!